What's going on? Jason Parks of The Media Captain here. Today I'm going to be talking about thin content and whether it's hurting your website from an SEO perspective. This is a fascinating topic that a lot of people don't consider as to why their SEO rankings might have dropped. So I'm going to dive into thin content, go over an example of a website that might be hurting from thin content and how you can fix the issue. So I have a lot of stats up here, so don't get overwhelmed. I'm going to go through each one of these and it's going to actually be really simple. So in this scenario, I'm going to talk about a website that, let's say, has 300 pages on the site. 300 pages, but 250 pages are blog posts. So when you think of a service-based company like an attorney, they have the homepage, the about, the contact us, they have their practice area pages. They might have 30 to 40 core pages, but then they have a blog. In the blog, someone has been writing the blog, they've outsourced the blog writing, someone's been writing it for 8 years now. So they have a total of 300 pages, but 250 pages are blog posts. Well, once you start drilling into it, 175 of the blog posts have under 400 characters. When you get to that level of under 400 characters in a blog post, I would refer to that as somewhat of thin content. That means that it's not very detailed, and Google can penalize your site if they feel like you have a lot of thin content. So what happens is a lot of these companies are hiring an SEO firm and they're thinking they're being proactive in writing blog content, but really it could be doing more harm than good. I recommend Screaming Frog. It's a software that our agency has. We use it. You can scrape a website. You can see the word count on all pages, and it's a great way to go through and analyze thin content. So when you now look at this stat, 83% of pages on this website are blog posts. That's a high percentage of pages. 58% of pages, 175 of 300, are what we deem to be thin content. So let's say you got hit with an algorithm update. You have no reason why you got hit with an algorithm update. It could have been that you have thin content. So this is where you now have to fix the issue. And how do you go about fixing the issue? So a popular question we get is, do I rewrite the content and enhance it, or do I delete the content? So I'm going to give a couple of scenarios to show you, to go through some critical thinking of how you would deal with this, because this could be very tough as to how to come up with the right situation. So I'm just taking the Media Captain site as an example. Let's say I was featured 5 years ago in Entrepreneur magazine, and I wrote a 150-word excerpt on the fact that we were featured. That is something where when it's featured on, that shouldn't really be a blog. You should have a section on your site for featured on, where it just has the logo of where you were featured and a link and maybe a short snippet. So that's an example where you just kind of want to restructure that. The same thing goes, we see with a lot of clients where they put upcoming events or sponsorships on their blog. Again, that can come off as thin content if it's only 150 words. So you just want to reorganize where that would go. I wrote a blog 9 or 10 years ago when I was pissed off about Southwest's slow Wi-Fi. I wrote that on the Media Captain's blog. And to this date, I still stand firm that their Wi-Fi in 2011 could have been better, but that's besides the point. That does not have any relevance on our website. So at that point, that is content where even if you try and enhance it, there's really no purpose for it being on the site, so you should delete that. But let's say I wrote a blog about domain authority and how it impacts SEO. That's a question we get a lot from our clients. So at that point, if that was thin on content, if that was 350 words, that is one that you can go back and enhance. And when you go back on a post, you should leave the original publish date, and you should just make sure that you reference that this was updated on so-and-so date. So that should help you go through and determine what to delete versus what to enhance. A general rule of thumb, and I'm getting pretty low here on the board, but is if you can't think of 2 other pages to link internally to this blog, to this piece of content, a good rule of thumb is to delete it. That's not always the case, but think of the Southwest Wi-Fi example. Literally, there's nowhere else on the site where it would make any sense for me to link to that page. I already deemed it to be irrelevant. That kind of just is a good rule of thumb to help you make that final decision. So If you feel like you've been, if thin content is hurting your SEO, hurting your website, feel free to reach out to us at the Media Captain. But this should guide you in the right direction. It can take a lot of time. I'm talking hundreds of hours, possibly, even more than that if you have thousands of blog posts and you have to come up with this strategy. So hopefully this was helpful. And again, more information, if you need more information, you can go to themediacaptain.com. Thanks.